刚才我做工作等边拉马去呢，等等等边能盘着，等等等边能拉马去呢。
Page 4.
Page 4 in the Yellow Book. Until awakening, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merit of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. Until awakening, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By the merit of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings.
Deve Jodan Dembar Church, Donga Donga Jedan Tower Church, Donga Medved Devada Mandawa Church, Yeren Chadan Yidanja, Donyola Nebar Church.
May all mother sentient beings, limitless as space, have happiness in the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they not be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, limitless as space, have happiness in the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they not be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion.
Ram Jan Jan So Sheng Jor Pe So Ma Lu Lo Ye Lang Den Ber La Na Ten Ye Do Gon To Jie Zong De So Da Lu Long Do Ba Ye Dang Pong Kan Chin Chin Chai Yon De Ma Je Da De Zong We Mu Po Che Se Kong Mer Je Dan Zen Xie Wa Sen Je Lo Mu Dan Mu Men Ta Le Yong Zhe Xin Jian Da Ne Song Zhong Da Che Je Min Xian Len De Ne Lo Men Zhan Xiu Per San Jie To Ba Sen Jie Lu.
An infinite array of worlds, each with 4 continents and the wealth of infinite oceans of realms, if I bring them all to mind and offer them without exception, please hold with compassion all the beings they contain. My body, enjoyments, and whatever I own, my aggregates, elements, and sense sources, my aspirations now and in times to come, as well as everything I grasp as mine. By offering them all, may I be blessed with the end of self-grasping. Completely liberated from the bonds of real and unreal, transcending the name and attributes of arising, cessation, and abiding, coming and going, affirmation and denial, the supreme Mandala is the natural state. When I offer it, bless me to attain the state of Buddhahood.
Om Guru Deva Drakana Mandala Adizo Suva. Page 11.
Page 11.
O Sem Che Nam Je Sambata Lo Ye Se Da Che Da 穷途梦太白也，去见可乐过的所。
Please turn the wheel of Dharma of the greater, lesser, and common vehicles according to the dispositions and mental capacities of sentient beings.
哎呀，哎呀，你点上样叫人家做门头呢，就是那部东村，là nhằm từ lúc trong suy ngồi chủ chế.
So this afternoon we're going to continue our study of the Black Snake Discourse.
Ta đến đây thì ta dul nạc bộ sĩ cái dung nhân chuyên năng de năng hoa là bê giác này tên này thế là càng sắc nằm bằng ngã gờ sam lô cái dân chul chế thọ này này bê cái thọ này đó là dùng chắc chắn để sống hiệu quả đấy.
So this treatise is based on the example or the metaphor of this image of 5 people looking, so it's a description of the ways in which 5 people think about, or the ways in which they apprehend the reflection of a black snake in water.
Đến ra hiện thì ta đi thọ này ngã chỗ cái bê đề đề bê chính cái thọ này na năng hoa đằng xiên ba nhị chế có yếu đấy, thì nhị cái khác chế có đấy.
So this is the metaphor that is given, but what the metaphor is pointing towards, the kind of key to the metaphor, the meaning underlying it, is it comes down to appearance and clinging. These are the 2 important terms, and the point of the text is to show us how to separate or distinguish appearances and clinging.
Đến ra hiện thì kiram cơ sinh trí đến ra cái năng là tác ba đến ra sống cái yếu đấy, kiram sinh trí sẽ phải đẹp đến ra yếu, kiram sinh trí sống chung nhị mà sẽ phải rồi nghe ngắm một thầm nhau đấy, quand là kiram sinh trí sẽ phải đến số năng là năng hoa cái nhiệm vụ là gom ba tang, bên na ngã chỗ rang nhị lar sar, rang nhị durji xem ba yin nhầm từ sam mari mari, rang nhị durji xem ba sar uy cáp gì li năm ba chiếc sal cái yếu ba, ô tí năng hoa cái nhiệm vụ đấy xong cái rang nhị durji xem ba yin nhầm ba li ngã jel thì xem ba cái nhiệm vụ yin xong này, tí nhị cái nhị chứ này năng xin là cái chắc giờ做是呢，năng hoa đang xem ba nhị cái lại ngồi tác bờ, yếm chân thế năng xin nhị cái đang nhầm từ từ chỗ có rồi.
Okay, so there's a text called Notes on Creation Stage. And so in that text called Notes on the Creation Stage, it talks about, it says that the antidote to appearances is meditating upon the deity. So when we visualize ourselves as the deity, so for instance, you see yourself in the form of Vajrasattva, and in the moment when you are able to clearly see the form of Vajrasattva, that the clarity of that becomes the antidote to the appearances. And then what we call the Vajra pride of I am the deity, the sense that I am the deity, that is the antidote to clinging at appearances. So through the practice of creation stage meditation, or through visualizing ourselves as the deity, we find the antidotes to both appearances and clinging. And so that's why yesterday we had this phrase that the appearances are perfected as the deity's body.
Tani terang hado Rinpoche tani kachu kaus chakja yi kor song song has. Di tama de la gomit sira chik song kuntu has. Di gomit ke chai de la lep song na tani di nang kang song ngaba de ge ni tang ge tol dang chik ba chak chares.
So then in Rinpoche's teachings this morning, when he was talking about the 4 seals, the 4 yogas. The 4th is the yoga of non-meditation. And when you reach that stage, then you are indivisible with then you have reached the same point as the fifth person in our text, the 5th individual looking at the snake in this text.
Tendra yindu pe nan do ga gas dongba ni gen charim charwirim ba sensari charim yi nangba dongba songju ma na dongwa songju nyamni ro kantarang de da win charim yi ores teni hakkaps nan jurji rimba ga togni rogun do was dong zixik ta teni zme ta da roxi la so ba yan rogun do was de yinden di kaps kangzang nga ga tani song do was nguni hina de changma de kangzak jik nyamling ga kaps susu ga samlo de ya garse gora yarjin ro ya ga goram chigres nyamling da tokba de ya compare ton ro yurum chigres marta kaptuga de nga ga nani nga de ni ba de yin tangbo men nga yinjing min nga ba yin de lawi tangbo damya yi yo mares.
So we see something similar in the sutra teachings when in the context of the sutra vehicle we talk about the stages of the dawning of emptiness, the stages through which we come to understand emptiness. And it starts with, empty appearance, and then the union of like an empty union, and it goes. So there's 4 stages through which emptiness, the realization of emptiness dawns. Now, these are very similar to the 4 stages of yoga that Rinpoche discussed this morning. The non-proliferation, one-pointedness, and so forth. So now here in this text we have 5 individuals that are being discussed. So this is the same. It works the same way, and that these are 5 different stages of a single individual's practice. And so you can, as an individual, you are progressing through these from wherever you are to 5. So this text tells you how to kind of improve your understanding, and therefore progressively realize and improve your realization. So it's not the case that you look at these and you say, oh, I'm a number 2, and then you stay there, or that you say, oh, I have to get to 5, I have to make I'm going to be a 5, and you get to choose, but it's, yeah.
Tani penna ngamo ngi oma tarwa, oma gi jong ta di omi na muji jingok se ji yorwa. Muji jingok. Tikap sa dak jingok ba, yan jingok ba. De ndigirwa te yan li jewa. Dag li jewa, yan li jewa, nika li jewa, nimen li shewa. Jewa ngok ba se ji yorwa. Tapi na ko gar la se no je yiki na teriti ore. O na de Jumili jewa, jangpin ba jumme par jewan do kris. Teni parter martak tangchen ba jang dakin do res. Ani ya chi pena semzambala so bi teni yanjin do res ya. Ta chi pena nyantu ba ro. Tenzin on the Tanga so Japachi on the oh, that Kogapare, Kapa Kurdua. Yena Sarki Kunjin Koramba, search your work, Kunjin Koram, Kungi Garson Stonda. They Sama Nasu Janga, the only consul Kagachi the Maris, Carson consultant Takaki Loton Laxari in the Sakarwa. The Kana Padoma, Yena, Natsuga, Semna la Dedan Dravi, some loss yours. This some load is called Tatu, the Rondo de Jaya Chedre Sonsa. The Penanga Dina Unica in the Druge you may make Tonda, Chorankawa is Laguio Mare, Natsola Dinda is some Lunank Pachak Damadayoba de so Thomas Chedres. The Tindi Nanga race.
So, when I first studied Madyamaka, there's a section of Madyamaka where you learn about the refutations of the 4 modes of birth, or 4 modes of arising of phenomena, right? So for example, like the position that phenomena arise from themselves, they're self-born, or they are born from others and so forth. So then we see like, positions from these ancient Indian philosophical schools that hold that phenomena arise without a cause, so causeless arising, or that, arising of oneself, like I believe Brahma is said to arise of himself. So, then we see like in the Yogacara, or where things are arising out of something else. And so in the Madyamaka, Madyamaka spends a lot of time refuting these different views. And so as a student, it's easy to get caught up in like, this is how you refute this one, and this is how you refute that one. But the Sakya Master Gorampa said that actually it's not about refuting these viewpoints like the Ajivikas and the Charvakas, and it's not about refuting them. Many of these schools, philosophical schools, disappeared 1,000 years ago. So the point of these philosophical exercises is to counteract our own tendencies that are similar to that philosophical school. So whatever our own thoughts, our own kind of mental tendencies towards one or another of these viewpoints, where we are, either adding to or not living up to, the nature of reality, then that's the point of such refutations. It's for working on your own mind. So when we look at this text, that's why, it's not really a question of, we don't have to debate, was there ever a black snake that 5 people looked at? Were there 5 people who looked at a snake? It's not about that. It's about cleaning up, purifying the habitual imprintings in your own mind.
YouTube tatung yorwa, tinala black snake teaching labsha. Black snake teaching marilla, Drunakbu Zugning teaching Amari, Drunakbu Zugnin Pela Jani, Nasugo Simka, Danzunkan, Zintang Damada de Sungunziaris.
So if you look on the YouTube, these teachings, how they show up on the YouTube channel, they're labeled Black Snake teachings. And when I noticed that, it kind of made me laugh because, actually, I'm not teaching about a black snake. And I'm not even teaching about the reflection of a black snake. What this topic is it is using the reflection of a black snake as a metaphor to help us recognize our own processes of grasping.
Chetanti koramba ga sonte kaptela ngarang la umaga tat jangdi sanglo tongtang la pe pandok jongsong. Chetan tianan ba le shuyin jihin na jirang zo pante de tokres.
Yeah, so Gorampa's words really helped me when I was studying Madyamaka, and that's why I'm sharing them with you. I think that it might, his words might be useful to you as well.
Oh yeah. Tandi o na mara tokchu chicken dus. Chetan ga namjing ke dere jong 자신보 대충나나 양룩 각바 랑룩 작바 쪼바 방와 세니 든디 타마텔라 소소가 따르때라 소소고 돌롱지니 란잡야고 룩소리요레 덴데 안테나긴진니 근친코 인데가 롱좀바 콩 강기송 약바 대소라 양키로 코랑랑 똑바랑니 데라 란잡요레스 데페 자신보레샤.
Okay, so now we come to the second, we come to the section in the text where Rongzom starts to respond to potential questions. So it's that you write, you kind of traditionally you put forth your philosophical position, and then you think of potential questions, or even objections, and then respond to those. So this is the section of the text that we have come to now.
이나 다 카창은 죽니네 대제요레. 아 ngombar nangwan pachak je toli chongwi nyirdo madokos. Siemba ne lober jende shi sinche lokko jepi dokpar lade se. Ta nangwa dang siemba ni je nangni siemba de doklaya yore so.
So, if we're starting at the top of page 7, and we'll just pick up the last sentence that we read yesterday. Because directly perceived appearance has arisen due to the power of latent tendencies, it does not quickly disappear. It's not easy to overturn. So because clinging to such appearance is produced by adventitious erroneous notions, it can quickly disappear. So here Rongzom is saying that of this pair, appearance and clinging, clinging is easier to get rid of.
Da di nang na pa Rongzom ba ge domba tangbo de ge shole domba ge domba tangbo de ge nang la tokba yi song gun du se. Na so pe nang ge chenbo re se. Nga so shersin jangwi kap se yang tokba se wa de sher ne ge shersin yor ba. ngon to jian. Jangwi kap se shersin tokbi si sa ma juk se dong si ge de kasor chi gore. Shersin si ya la kangr chi shi de tokba ge ko ngun zhen jia de ra yo re. Di tokba se wa de pe nyok da cha gore se. Ta na zhen di nang la yang kong ge tokba nan ba yi che xiang du ba. Da so pe nga so nyam len je wa la pan ta gore se.
So in this first paragraph, at the top of page 7, Rongzom covers 4 4 types of thoughts or 4 types of conceptions. And this is really a very helpful section because, for instance, when I was studying the Prajnaparamita portion, of the curriculum, so the perfection of wisdom, there's a saying among students that, understanding the perfection of wisdom curriculum depends on understanding what a concept is. So it's, it's a really difficult, it's a really kind of wriggly thing.
COVID-19 무슨 거도와 당보나니 아서 나니 롱하마다 들이라 베티나 영문이 그 님보텐니 베나데 남주지 고람 따위 만다와 때도 차버때 하고 그요나 갑대당 때가 빵야 똑바 그 차라카 만다와 무슨 거래 제 강마즈니 오 여요래 라바잠지 강야 찍바리 삼두가 때가 좀 고음에 비따그레스.
So for example, when we were trying to create a vaccine for COVID, that vaccine depended on isolating the virus properly. So you have to know what it is you're trying to counteract with your antidote. And so similarly, when we were talking about the 4 yogas, where we have to know we have to understand the conceptuality that is trying to be counteracted through these 4 yogas. So, the different levels of subtlety and coarseness, and when we don't understand that, that's that's a sign that we're not understanding that if we're not linking those up.
Tendra yenzang di tokpa tangwo de parcher ngombar shimbi tokpa labna de yosare.
Ngumbar Shimbi. Yes. So then we can call the first type of conception as clinging, like as kind of.
Ta gang la de shimba de yang xiao xin doa. Shimba ne la doa de la yana de ngombar shimba re.
Ngumbar Shimba. It's like actual clinging, maybe.
Yang na dag de shimba do de da rakpa de ren doa.
So this is the coarsest conception type of, yeah.
Tani kongi shimba de yang 참마른 점발리 정오 se. 되게 당전 이바든 다다 이바디냐라 참마른 점비 똑바스 당보되나다 다드 힘비 똑바스 나 잭사르 퍼스 다티야 간삭 다게밍이 바요 말이나 다드 힘비 똑바스 이바드 참마르 힘비 똑바스 선바데 우버따위 똑바스 제바데 우니기 똑바스 오 다데시레스 인지간테 나 인저터고요스 유지를 다 벌써.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, yeah. So, 담보 ngumbar shimbe tokpa.
제
제말 짐be tokpa.
제 우버따위 똑바.
Ngumbar tawe.
더니 우니기 똑바스.
Konda sumadi.
선바데 우버따와.
Ngumbar tawe. Yeah. Okay, so the four conceptions that we are talking about in this paragraph. First is the clinging to, I guess directly perceived appearance, maybe you can say, but like manifest clinging, or actually maybe we'll just, if you look at footnote 14, but you know what, they appear in a different order. Okay, so they're in a little bit different order, but okay. So just to use his vocabulary, try and keep everything clear for you. The first conception is the clinging to appearances, maybe you could say, and then the second one is the belief, grasping at the characteristics of the appearances. And then the third is clinging or seeing appearances as real entities. So, and then the fourth is sorry, where to go? Okay, it's you could talk about the conception of an essentialist conception.
야. 그때 녀터 차본도 왔어. 옛날양 당보 베나 닥드 심비 다티 당보의 심바데 베나 저런기 뎁데 통이 가서 뎁데 니 뎁리 사야로 딘디 그 직식 침보가 저거 다 당선 그 저러와 다 된다 오래서 당이 잡으면 지쇼고 있어. 협차오 지시 탑게야만도.
So Gumbar Shimbi. Okay, so now in terms of the first one, sorry, now I lost my terms again. In terms of the first one, the clinging to appearances, an example would be like, I have this book, and as soon as you look at the book, you think, that's my book, so that is a type of self-grasping, with relation to an appearance.
Tani ta 참마른 점바스요. 근데 문이 대프렌도와 대비약보싱도와 서면도 당보 니리 말씀 몰라요. 대빈 통용 된지지거로 다 된다 그랬다.
So now the sorry. Grasping at the characteristics. That is when you look at the book. You've already said this is my book, but grasping at the characteristics, you think, oh, this is a really good book.
Yeah. Tang ngupur tawasi chirong di otan di konzubrin di tondongrin di karbori marbori se ni chitang go korang di tonchin ni pare se aro tenri chi go yang chi deli jang xiu chi mixer nda wo chi ma chi na yang ta rang sing ke te nzamba si yorwa te la ta ngupur nzamba res.
So now when you in terms of the conception that views them as real entities, then that is when you start going into, oh, this is conventional truth, this is ultimate truth, this is white, this is yellow, this is red, this is a causally effective, phenomenon. This is something that is has potential to do things. This is something special. This is inherently existent. Like that, it's that.
Ani ngoni ki tokba se wa de korang ni nang chawa do ni se nawa zamsi tande la de re mari se dakbo jab jang mar jib jang korang ka ma thapi rangsin ke yot ta bi nawa si go de ngoni ki am korang jin ji lan ji de yo bi ti nawa de ngoni ki nawa re tokba re de yang ngoni nyamling ka ti tokba chi re do re lo go ti number tok bi tu ba ga chawa de me na ko yo mar wa ye rang ta na 제장 ngoni 똑바 세 디나와 잠보대야 똑바리 세야데 비 난각 침보레스.
So then the fourth is the essentialist conception, and the conception of there being an essence. And so this is a very subtle dualistic the subtle appearance of duality, where even if whether you try to refute it or not, it just naturally is there, a sense that this phenomenon is there, this appearance is there. And so it arises, this essentialist conception is co-emergent with the appearance itself. So it's just as the appearance arises, there's this thought about its essence. And so when you are practicing, that is a thought as well. So it is a conceptual thought rooted in the intellect. If you are able to cut through that intellect, then that it won't be there. And so it is. So what this is telling us is that actually the appearance itself, mere appearance, is a concept. So we call this the essentialist conception. But what it's saying is that mere appearance is itself a concept.
제정다 돔잡나 도동라오시나 베르나 나추 드르나보즈니 천왕의 나완 통디 천왕의 나와데 나추니 야크 말이 옛나양 우이니스다 하고 요나 디나라 드르둑 냠비 록톡데 호나 메바착로 탑고요레 디 고람다 데 드르리 냠비 맨나양 hiện ba de so yang kale me ba ro yo yin na yang ru gu zung ni chona da na wa de ta dong tin ri ga wang na ga yo res de da ngo ni ki tok ba res yin na de ya nam sig na me ko res ta ma de la me to res.
So when we have this metaphor of the reflection of a black snake in water, that appearance, that is appearing to us, that we are perceiving, that's not, it's not an inherently good thing. But even so, we're kind of in 5 stages describing the reality of that appearance. So it is actually, we are able to, in kind of 5 stages, overturn clinging at that appearance. But through the working of interdependence, it continues to appear. So even as we understand it, more profoundly, more carefully, it continues to appear. That is the essentialist concept. And so ultimately, at the end, even that concept will fall away.
Tani olata ndar ngazik si ta perna makaji ko toba langni ta perna oma ta omi nangla yang ton tambar demba ni irme pasong ko yores dembare ton tampar lamdo ton tambar demba ni mers sang ko nangla nangwa ko korma bo hye yore pe nangwa lar gomgo la yor was de kariri labita tsarchi
Tadi injige
nando
okay. Injige jortang titas chigi mena sams. So inji jortang de uma ke demba ni de yewa chigi mendos.
ton tambar la de jargor tartuk la se
And then
sang ji jongi yang nawa ka khamdu la te chabar jarmdu
okay. And sangha ke shungi nawa migok sene so nawa de
ka khamdu
kagi mendos de tagarang. Okay. So here someone may wonder why Madyamaka scriptures do not distinguish truth into two categories on the ultimate level. And why Guhya Samaja scriptures do not reject appearances.
Tate tendi dore. Perna ko dokchoni shege yorda. Karikya korsa ta perna kasang chwa tangswa. Omate anram ni bare la swa. Kachi ta te kayan te omate tumbu marwe la swa. Ta ku tenda ore. Oma ge yang demba yen mi shege yo marwe dilin to zang yin sar was. Ngak gaps nawa mangok la kun do. Nawa makak na chorang ge te heon tumbu mare la kun do. Tere indi ta yana chorang ge yongdi nangla ngak de gala shege yor wa. Te karishi la ku yor do.
Right. So and this is the translator talking. I actually think that maybe we should translate this as here someone may object that Madyamaka scriptures do not, and so forth. I think we take out these words why and say, and so at this point someone might object that actually, Madyamaka and Secret Mantra are a little bit different than have been presented earlier.
The Okote land jawris that the land the pe naga chimbori na pe land the ship charendu not to gosa marisam like shekandus.
So now on regarding this objection, Khenpo Rinpoche's explanation is that so here we're kind of talking about the opposites. This is being presented as an opposite. So, this question is actually being raised by the person who yesterday asked, isn't Madyamaka actually a very high view? And here it's only number 2. And it's really, in Madyamaka, it doesn't, on the ultimate level, it actually gives a different explanation. And why should it be below the secret mantra scripture? So this discussion that's coming, the answer that's coming is the answer to that person. And so now this answer is very, very profound and it's excellent, but I think I'm worried we're not going to be able to understand it.
Hollywood lokni yakpo tendra yenda chi nadun inji machine nga chu ta na ingde chi do a te ro chi kirang sa ngarang so cha zu ship cha ma go na de ingde le ya ge re wa yos.
So however, it's okay when you don't understand something fully. You can still get something. So like those of us who don't speak English very well, we still can enjoy a Hollywood movie, So I'm hoping you get a taste of this, you enjoy it,
Nga chong ga se lo nyen ga shu de chen long yo jami. Ja chen long yo. Jack Chin ma de.
Jackie Chan. Oh.
Jackie Chan ga lo nyen da ni ne shok ge de ni du ri ge lo nyen de so ga ge yos. Dungdis and jiggle. Roland. Europe, Roland.
was a little boy, my favorite movies were Jackie Chan and Western horror movies. Zombies.
Sakang tindi na gondam ni ndo di sakang na la tangi yore. Dini yara ta da na ke ko yo mar da ta yak di ti zorta da na ti action la ta ni ti gar yore.
So you know.
Jackie ko mar ti kas.
So you know, I didn't understand any Chinese at that age, and I, you know, didn't really have a way to watch these things. But I would be walking by a restaurant, and you could see, like through a little chink in the door, you could see they were showing, you know, something on the TV, and you would just be drawn in by the action, you know, even if you didn't understand what was being said.
Kanzak kanki lolas, dempa ni jinte de, ta boy ki tang la pe nang kang do, kanzak kanki lolas. Tanga zoga tawa de, tangbo semba tang la chi shar ni, teni samlo tang japa jik ji di, ji tang de jun chak tsar da. Nong chur chi genggo zuk tsar wa, ko tokpa ga zog yor wa. Di jam sang ke, kanzak kanki lola, dempa ni jin sanyi dembar chapa, oh, nda kanzab dembar re, nda tondam dembar re, sewi tendi, sanya madawa ni semnang la yak ni lap kore, lo la yak ni sarwa. Te yo yasha si ni, teni, shifsha te so ta te, kanzab de, ton la yo me se, labya ka kapsu, nam to yang lo ni ba mandur ti, se, kadu yin na ya te, nam tok dang katar yo ma re, song re, o te re. 제가 어미 따위 송땅데 간디 직보 요나요. 코 샤바데 릭바데 남도고 로 시게 요르와. 데코 가리나 데 돈덤데 뎀바 예르메도제 람나요. 예르메바 용 타르투바지 용야요 말이라. 단디 난게 베렌도.
So the answer starts with a person in whose mind, so any person, in the mind of any given person, you know, so defining characteristics of the two truths are intellectually posited as truly established, and and one examines or considers them to be objects of knowledge, such a person will never be able to relinquish dualistic mind. So in other words, you know, as soon as, no matter who we're talking about, as soon as there's a conception in somebody's mind, then they've fallen into error. So we have a problem. So when we're talking, you know, about the middle way, as soon as we say that's conventional truth, that's ultimate truth, as soon as we start saying things like that, then we are in trouble. And so when we're talking about knowables, objects of knowledge, you know, different phenomena, and when we are considering, oh, they exist or they don't exist, you know, we're always dealing with a dual approach. We're always working, you know, with a binary, with a duality, and so you know, no matter how kind of impressive or eloquent Madyamaka might be, it's always dealing with two categories, and so he says that he will never be able to relinquish dualistic mind. There's never a point. You know, as to the degree that you are stuck in two categories, then you are ultimately never going to abandon a dualistic grasping. So this is an incredibly key point.
Oh yeah, 제가 ndatarsena oma pa de tsuki ta ton tamber demba ni irmere si jalwa jalsena nata ripa ga cheni jalwa am ten디 초박 제게 요러와다 어디 제나 힘죽 제게 요러와다 열위 제나 히보란도 바세나 셈가 낭라는 라고요 다들 셈가 낭라 어타 근접 저마 잠지 요래 삼니 랑징 그디 근접 덴바서 레본 그 요랬다 그래서 그 samlo tangking 락차 거랑 남똑 남시르와 이시 말와 어디리 딘 도바도 마땅 와야 돼서 가디나티 건조된바데 돌라 루다가 요 말이지. 대위나 추님 니스메 브르드브체나 삼바 니도 담버게 와요노스. 돈 담버 니스메 바 람나 니스메 바 랑그 탕라 파른로 야샤자든로 터야 요 말이지. 나랑서 그 삼로군이 되리.
So, and then it says, for when that person, so here we're talking, about the Madyamakan. So when that Madyamaka, Madyamakan, has determined that, or you could, also, you could also maybe better translate this as examining or considering, that thinking over, or estimating. This is Khenpo's suggestion, estimating. So when that Madyamakan estimates that, or kind of posits that the two truths are inseparable. So that's the statement. The two truths are inseparable. This deeply, with a deeply held belief, he also has not let go of holding that the conventional exists as mere illusion, and this position is not relinquished. So, in other words, even when he says the two truths are inseparable, because we're using language to do that, deep, within his heart is the thought, is a dualistic thought. Is a grasping at duality. And so when you are working in a conceptual realm, when you are working with conceptual thought, then you don't have wisdom. Then you're not working with primordial wisdom. And so there's, this position is never relinquished, because it's deep in one's heart. And so this is, the mindset where we find ourselves.
엄마가 대한 killing 대라 지박 참아라고 여러와. 남독당 카타리 지박 참마시 용금해와. 내가 저거다 리바히 잡아 참마데 체마 인도 축장 대 지박가 참마 잠시를 무슨 말이지.
So, I actually I believe in Madyamaka. I agree with Madyamaka. But in Madyamaka itself, it talks about people who come to this understanding only through inference. So they have not directly understood it, but they have understood it merely through inference. That's where we are at.
Oh yeah. Tenda yindi 지선말라 리바가 낭당 동바 예르면나 따와 롱도 겨바연스 럼보체가 딱바 장근도와 어다 데데 디당 립고요레 디당 립야데 오마그야 냠링그 값스 킬랭고요레 베나 가르송어서 똥닛 박착 곰비니스 디측디 약부 희원도 희발하기 존주가 나라 똥닛 그 박착세 당방가 리바 히바디 박착세레 똥닛 박착 곰비는 우부 박착 방저거디 똥닛 대 배치요레스 강르잖아 우부 박착 대 방로 그랬어 대 제양 매지 곰비는서 어때도 우부 박착양 요 말 똥니양 요 말에 삼니 곰나 대양 천이 봉을 겨르스 담 당부 똥닛 곰니 마똥민 잠바데 독 되니 똥마똥 니긴 잠바데 독로 고레 손이 타마데 대가랑가 야른 로고 람가 집바 착도 요레스 요장 사당보 그 값스 농학 공바 일미스니 사당보 통큰 그 장주 선바지나 공학가 람니 팹난다 노가 람니 팹난다 소소 따와 응언이 찍바창도 그랬어.
So Milarepa said, as Rinpoche over and over again quotes, Milarepa said that beyond the inseparability of appearance and emptiness, there's, no greater perfection of the view. That's the realization we're trying to arrive at. So now in the, as for Madyamaka, when we were practicing, it also applies in the context of practice in that we are using emptiness to clear away our habitual imprints. So there's a wonderful passage in the Bodhicharya Avatara by Shantideva where he talks about how you can use emptiness. Emptiness can be used, like as a tool. And so you start with emptiness and to clear away the habitual imprint of grasping at, reality, like material reality of things. And then, but then you can also use emptiness. Then we also have this habitual imprinting towards grasping at the emptiness. So, we progressively apply emptiness to release or clear away these habitual imprintings. And as we do this, eventually, if we reach the first bhumi, for instance, a bodhisattva who reaches the first bhumi, whether he has come through sutra practice or whether he has come through tantric practice, the first bhumi is the first bhumi. It's the same bhumi.
Tati yang satangpo first bhumi ga kaus yang ndong ga gongpa chikpa chakare mari sewa de la kipa de song tandamada yores yena yang ni lavya de zo jamgon mapum Rinpoche ga song jeja jini shogu yos.
So actually, there are different philosophical positions. Different scholars have said different things about whether or not the first bhumi is the same for sutra practitioners and tantric practitioners. So there is, some debate about this. But what I am saying is based on the teachings of Jamgon Mipam Rinpoche.
Ni Jamgon Mipam Rinpoche kong song de genkin rongzom patri da dang longchin ramjum ni gongpa yang song yores.
And so as for Jamgon Mipam Rinpoche's position, he says that he is basing his position on the teachings of Rongzom and Longchenpa.
Yeah. Ta konzub okote konzub re shole jeba. Konzub to joma tawo se jaruri shepa se. Ta di korla tende ge samlo tang ni taksi jepi kapsu nyantu dang nangjur chopa taki Ton tambar yopar takba namji truba shiwi jama tawashi jochi konzub to tonshin nipu ziji tongwa jama tawashi na manatis deyang omapi songko yosari omapi nyantu se na ta nyantu rwa nantu deba pe na chepchang nawa tong dordewa nikala ko yore 근데 좀 다시 해용돼. 남주를 좁아야 돼. 단디 가서 벌써 셈잠바 인사래. 근데 벌써 인지나도 리저도 봐. 셈잠바 남주를 봐.
Yeah,
셈잠바.
Yogacara. Yeah.
야, 오케이. 대 공소고 돈 담으로 요반도 그랬어요. 다들 요번 가리 요번도 그랬으나 빼나 접촉 나와던 돌대비 참은이가 돈 담으로 지스트 바리 송도와 시바까지 참에 땅 종아 도천 참에 참이니 시바까지 참에 종아 도천 참에 English
Okay.
대니가 돈 담으로 요바당 지스 요번도 그 요래 대 접촉 나와던 돌대빈도 바리 Tani nangjur chopa sem zamba namji yangwang yongchup ta don dambar dembar chopa sewa chi kileng yore. Te la goni so parsi yangwang ga zi tende la parsi song yo sari. Yangwang yongchup da mari yangwang la na rik sari de ka so yang konzo ku yang xia do.
So now we continue on page 8. When determining that conventionally, or quote, conventionally things are illusion-like, they are described as illusion-like because the conceptual elaborations, i.e. the imputations of ultimate existence made by Shravaka and Yogacara followers have been quelled. However, the Madyamaka does not say illusion-like on account of things being empty of causally efficacious substances on the conventional level. So here we are moving to the conventional level. And here, when we talk about the Shravaka followers, we're particularly probably talking about the Vaibhashikas and the Sautrantikas. And here, so he's explaining how these philosophical schools refute the ultimate existence of phenomena through what's called the two types of partlessnesses: the partlessness of mind and the partlessness of particles. So then, secondly, the Yogacara followers, refer to the mind-only school, and here they refute the ultimate existence by means of paratantra, or talking about the the dependence on another power.
Oh yeah, 제장 오마비 룩라 데이터위 지스 덴드브데 도크메장 gema타워 랍기요레 예나야 gema타워 타르tuk바데 차카메레 제장 건줍도 돈신니부 지지 동니 gema타워시 만나레 세오디 건줍도야 돈신니부 그 건줍도야 건줍메 랍기요 말도도 그러다 건줍거라 건줍도 요레데 어때리 건줍도 나버면 나 건줍도 요 차로와다 되게 이와데 치로고 요짱 되니 gema타원 타르tuk바세와데 차카요 말레세.
So now when the Madyamaka, it says, so we've said that this is how the lower schools establish that conventionally things are illusion-like. But now as for the Madyamaka does not say things are illusion-like because they are empty of causally efficacious substances on the conventional level. So the Madyamaka, in other words, when the Madyamaka talks about conventional reality, it does not say that what is conventional does not exist. So conventionally, it does not talk about conventional truth. And so in that sense, it talks about illusory phenomena, but ultimately, like they are not ultimately illusory.
Yes.
Dixon.
저당게 롱섬 비송가나라 gema타워 세와데 빼마보 통그레라 gema당 고냠바 시비측데 롱섬 송 까치모시그레스
Jumadang.
고냠바 고냠바.
So in Rongsam's writings, the word illusory or illusion is like equalizing. Equalizing. These are two key terms.
베르나 택진 천주군 죽나 직제지요레. 지킨나 택진 천주 다녀고 공수시나다. 추름 gema타워시 송럽절라 장모지스. 추탐제 gema타워시 송럽 참마그나나 용기 요레데. gema타원 타르tuk반도 적신인 손이 공급대송요레. gema타워 시바데 농협 참마그나나 송그 요레스 송랍스나다 상직 송 참마나나 송그 옛나양 니돈 타르tuk비 gema고님데 적신인 송요레. 진짜 적신이야. 다 gema타워스 타르tuk바데 적바침보레 송.
Okay. So in the entering the way of the Mahayana, another important text by Rongsom, he says that So all phenomena are illusory, are illusions, and this is taught in all of the different scriptures that we can consult. But ultimately, the illusion is explained by Dzogchen.
Oh yeah. 제장 네 값을 다 의미 좀 왔다고 때양 되니 야차 약 좀 왔다고 랑 말에 송요 또도.
Okay, so what this means is that, when we're talking about the illusory existence, whether or not things exist, illusory existence, they are not 100% illusions.
제장 특징 선주고 나는 레오 찍 믹스를 주탐지 점마당 고뉴미 임버톰 발라 빼 망보고 시오지고 송커레라 송땅때 하장 단람베 땅때 믹스를 시오레스. 이나 대랑때서 쇼토고 말레스. 운이 믹스레스.
So one of the chapters in the entrance to the way of the Mahayana, Rongzom goes into great detail establishing the kind of philosophically establishing how it is that all phenomena are both illusory and equal, equal, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Go nyamba. Less. Oh yeah.
It's just that we have so many of the words that. So if anyone knows Tibetan, the word is go nyomba. It means that you bring the heads together to the same level.
Yeah.
And we
same
have
level.
like many different words for equality, which is why it's hard for me to figure out what word to use here.
Rongzom ke song nang la different words pe mang bo yokore.
So in Rongzom's writings, he has many different words that he likes to use.
Mapong Rinpoche ke Rongzom song bom ke kachak ke nang la Rongzom ke song ke chachu zo jig de ngitsik de tanit mandrawa mixer pecho tang ni ndrike jawya tang pe mandrawa pecho tang ni ndrike jawya de Rongzom ke song ke chachu la ya yore.
So in Mipam Rinpoche's catalog of Rongzom's works, he talks about that one of the really defining characteristics, one of the really distinguishing features of Rongzom's work is just that he uses a really varied vocabulary, and he uses terms in sort of idiosyncratic ways with really precise definitions.
Nga Rongzom ke fansi chak dra gimtsen ya kong ke song ke nang dun go song a maris. Na kong ke song tang de da song de pe jerwa tam ji ye chok pa ji yores.
So one of the reasons I've been so captured by Rongzom is not so much the content of what he's saying, but just the style and the words that he uses to say it. It is just really captivating.
Okay. Then ndar jaru shepi dina yang konzub de zisen zheban chanyi la ngus megni den ri ta konzub ngubo de la samlo tang ni o de yang tak par ngubur zhba yo ma re se ngubo ma zhba la hi ndok yo re se de ma dewi na ni che yang chul ni ne lu ma tang o se chul ni se wa de kap kap ma bu ko jo re ta tan ye ke chul dang don dam bi chul ni se che wa re. There is. Tanit konzub ko tsoltam. Tondam.
Oh, konzub.
Konzub tondam.
That's right. So, okay, here, even at the time of making this determination, or this, positing this, one apprehends the defining characteristics of what is substantially established on the conventional level as being real, and one holds that these are not actually established as real entities. In this instance, therefore, the mind has not let go of those two modes of being, i.e., ultimate and conventional.
Oh yeah. Tani 단디 죽게 배 같이 버려. 콩그 문턴이 될란데 히잡이야스. 남바 속을 씹도 이게 있는 득사레스.
So now the rest of this paragraph is very important, and so I ask you all to read it.
콩근들서 대위난 덧다른 겨때 너다 차크레스 접돈 던다레스 돈다 조금지나 접돈 드리리다 손이 말송도와 딘디 그바 나서 그 샘크로 고금도 콩금바 란차 나오도와.
So it starts, this being so, it follows, this is, so he's saying that he doesn't need for us to ask a question. He's like one step ahead of us. He's telling us, what usually follows.
맨날 가상가 주세니 가르진 엄마빠데 강사 이바레 레버니 레라야데다 란데레지.
So, for instance, we had this question yesterday. Why is Madyamaka only number 2? So here's the answer.
다서 나와 추진 산지를 작니 그 삼로고 돈이 남독거 니주니로와 파쇼처럼 니주니 더니 디 나오인 산니즈와데 나나와데 느리지레 삼니 디 건접 코랑 혀르드 작잖아 디 값스 다티가 말고 공다 나 디추섬 산지 주바당 저바당 저다데 돈라 주바당 저바레 삼니 나완디 주바당 저라데 나와디 차슈도 차송을 말도 나와 메비돈다 차요 말다 나와데 주바당 저바레 랍디가 나와데 시엘라 작니 디강라 주브터시비 리모치 티작다 오라다 로 리모치 비값이 쇼코로 요이바라 Tenagia nawa hibate lola jagni tigangla oda te tujere donlar se yakordena nawa langlang te rangsar jayorta. Tenda indi nangu juba tang jarwa tang jama tsam rese ni tujer tang jama tawniga nyamdo semna nyardi ores. Ah. Te kap te chit dese charang tindi samlo te yopi ringla nanguin chanila himba loyo mares. Nanguin chanila himba malokba yena nyamba chimbo chaka marita songta dere. Deta wi kanzala nyamba chimbo tawa chen si mashago se deta wi kapso chara nyamba chimbo tawa yonkhe mari song.
Okay, so this being so, it follows that when appearance or subject is posited as a defined instance, as soon as we remove the predicates of this subject, and the conceptual elaborations regarding this defined instant, it appears as merely illusory to the degree that this dawns in our mind. And so when we, are thinking, basically this is, when we are using conceptual thought, then we are, using dualistic, we are creating a duality through our conceptual thoughts. And so to the degree that we can, so the mind that clings to the defining characteristics of appearance has not ceased. To the degree that this dawns in our mind, the mind that clings to the defining characteristics of appearance has not ceased. So, as long as we are clinging to defining characteristics, then we are in the conventional realm. And so it's like this, if you are going to, as long as you are involved with conceptual thoughts, then you have not let go of conceptual proliferation, right? So it's like if you are going to draw something, you always have a piece of paper, so if you are talking about non-elaboration, you are still in the realm of elaboration. So, just having that conceptual thought of non-elaboration is elaboration. It's coming with your mind. And so it says such a person is not deemed to be someone having the view of great equality. So it's going to continue.
Dewi nasi, or Tendra Yenzans. Demba ni sevi, Dini, Sosan Zambi, Shembago, Jawars in a partitu, Jas, Vatingasu, Chasvat and Hamu, Nobanda in the Jas in the G. Kupa Nio, and the Kupachik, the Chachi, Kupachi Chachi, didn't yam the drum young, not Jaserwa, Jadum Serwa, Jasera, the Kupa Kanchik, the Wachila. And the Javars and a counter, that they consume them by the Tabachi, you know, counter. Don't them but chicken, Tini parla till some load the chug, Diana. Jabber the jugni said, Doctor Chananga, load, consume them by the Tonton by ni, save some load chick, Mangsig talk ni, then some load catset, Anayam. That's a just your mercy. Oh, did they indicate? Te Nyambachimbo Tartu Maris, Yena Yang say or Tatilla. Yena yang de Jimson meba, Tondang meba, Guba meba, Revesena Mari. Ngupola, Chir, she be constant namji, Sita, Tambonga so Ngupu Pachapango yorwa, Danzan Pangona demit de Pichurwa. Chetang Tambonga so Danzan de Sopanga, Chetang Yoburn Zambi, Nyembola, maybe Gongo Yoti, or Tig. Tita we consacre Nyembosongares. Onjang, Chujingo, Nilana, Sanini meadows, Yenaya. Donla, Demba ni servaji, can't your maris. Demba ni jinsani susrio maris.
So, in this regard, this being the case, determining objects of knowledge by fixating the mind on the. So here, Khenpo gives a different explanation of this term, so you can kind of ignore footnote 18 and cross out the word subdivision. This term means the twisting of two threads. So you have two threads and then you're making a bigger thread or a rope or something. You're twisting them together. So the intertwining maybe of the threads of the two truths. So your mind is in the middle of these two, caught in the middle of these two threads that are intertwined, that are the two truths. So this is an old nomad term. So this was declared to be a remedy for people who cling excessively to real entities. So yes, so this is not the view of great equality, but yes, it's not the case that this was taught without any reason, without any purpose. So yes, there's a duality here, but it was intentionally taught this way to counteract the habitual tendencies of those who grasp at reality, that the reality of entities. Because if we are trying to overcome self-grasping, you start by overcoming the view of a real reality, inherent reality. So this is the remedy for that. Even in reality, the two truths are not two separate things at all. They're not two different things.
Gangi 참마른 점발로나 신바동 들와인. 저를 나양 세장 문바 문종와 디체나 냠바침부터 딱소 손도 말해.
Okay. So indeed, however, the essence of phenomena is without dualistic defining characteristics. Indeed, one in whom the perception, of properties, it has ceased, is free from such clinging, and therefore no longer craves or wishes for anything that appears. In that instance, the term view of great equality is employed.
제정 노가 나라야 직잘 낙기람지 문촌바 남카다위 추지랑신데 손에 직당 잘와 낙칼람지 문촌바 까샤의 초딘을 지시하며죠 남카도 냠바지요레 대다위 추지랑신 그 공도치나 대 뽑았다가 그냥 맞은지였어. 디값을 저랑 그 시럽 탐이비 시럽 당담바리 송도와. 근데 뭐 보면 뭐지 따봐 효 송이 값을 따가랑 장거리 롱대.
So, and therefore, we find this sutra quote that says, the beyond words, and beyond the path of speech, like cannot be captured with speech, is vast like the sky. That is the nature of phenomena. So when you understand that, then you have like a vast amount of wisdom. So when Mipam Rinpoche teaches about the view, he always quotes this verse.
Garche Rinpoche ronsum baga songwi tawa tendi nguni gan chanye tamchi dang chara demba ni kanda yang mzen pate yang dang yang de samlo na la te zachi kowachi lemna teni gumba nyamling ka kaps pe pando yoris.
So if today some of Rongsum's teachings about the freedom from defining characteristics or the freedom from grasping at the duality of the two truths, if you are able to understand just a little bit of this, it will be very beneficial for your meditation and your practice.
Perna Dza Tsering na je tokse pasiwa si yoris. Tokse se ate sakoya te jol jiwa sakozi roba dang te jiwa ti mingre tokse la kur. Sakozi te kar la kur.
Sakozi is like a
Jol inji
pickaxe.
Yeah, ko ming la ko lakpa la te samni xiang mo yor.
Okay.
Yena ko Dza Tsering na ni ko ming la tokse pa la res.
So there's a story of one of the 84 Mahasiddhas whose his name is Doktsipa, which means Mr. Pickaxe.
Yeah. Good translation.
He carries a pickaxe and he's constantly digging in the ground with it, but yeah, he's also a Mahasiddha. So.
Kongi song na la semji gomba men magomba yang gomba men goswa gomdang magom tali days te ya puji jura yella medo chagjachi tatat은 네 거나 아니 띠 띠까리 진짜 곰지요래 내 전이 마고 어떤가 갑두가 띠 똑제바 가리 히아바티 골람네 용 가보 쉬오래.
So so he has a verse where he says it's the habituation of the mind. So semki gomba mes.
Simla teni 내 직바 직장래도 semji gom다 때 주마로와 또 gomba 말이지 어나 강 말곰니 육시하래 대양 말이 대양 곰 말이지 곰 말곰 그 탈린디 소나 어때 자자침보데 일라미치 바래.
So meditation with your mind is not meditation, and then non-meditation is also not meditation. So beyond the extremes of meditation and non-meditation, Mahamudra is freedom from mentation.
옛나양 대따위 곰고나 땅포 따와 고니데 하고 고요. 하고야는 내서 럽종지 고요. 디 제장 거르름 뭐치고요. 따와 탁축 구소 제방남 세포그 제방데서라 따와데 샘크당데 탁축 거리스 디사이드 오늘의 레샤 어타늘의 레샤 사면라고데 탁축 고요. 아니 늘지는 아니라고요.
So however, for meditation to go well, it helps to have a good view. You have to start with the right view. And in order to develop the right view, you have to study and train in it. So that's why we also see Guru Rinpoche say that you have to be definitive about the view. You have to be sure about it. You have to really know, yes, this is what it is. And then you can just sit back and meditate.
Oh, yeah. Continue. Yang tibas, yang chir tok ba chikoris, trawa chiktini, yang lanjak yoris, ronzamba. Yang lanjam ko ronzamba rintoa.
Okay, so we get another question, and continuing to the next paragraph, an additional question. So again, Rongzumpa is putting forth a potential objection or question.
Today, Rongzumpa answer or question. Nawa tsam nit kunzuma yin nam siena. Ri. Tadi nawa tsam chik tama lang ro yor ta. Ti tokba ji na ngu ni chi tokba re sam gu ngi. Ti nawa tsam de korang kunzum marwe labna song. Kanza kangla nawa kunzum yimburn zamba de na. Tu zhi dondam yimba la. La tutor tondum de boyig de zan chug de sare tondum mayem ber sim balance ba parchen ma ro redwa inji te redwa
inji la gacheng mendo.
Ngāchā gāchā gō mandu, chidhā na tī chik tī tēzhā chik mandu, inā gāchā gō mandu. Kāng tārā nāwā kāndzab yīmbā tāng chūchir tāndab yīmbā chī yīmbā nzambā nīgā tē, kāng tārā nzambā rēs. O nīgā tē, kāng tārā tēlā nzambā chī xiuk chār na, nī kōrā tī kāndzab tē rēs. Tēnī kāndzab tā nzan nāndā, tāndab nzan nāndā, dēmbar nzan nāndā, dzumbar nzan nāndā, chāng mā
So, an additional question. So again, Rongzom is just anticipating all of our own questions. He says, isn't mere appearance the conventional reality? So isn't, just that fact of appearance, isn't that conventional reality? And the answer is, this is what was pointed out above with respect to any person who believes appearance to be conventional and believes in the back of his mind that freedom from conceptual elaborations regarding that is the ultimate. So, in other words, when isn't mere appearance, this is what I've identified, my hypothesis is that here, when we're talking about mere appearance, this is what is meant by the essentialist conception, that when we were talking about the four conceptions at the start of today. So the the essentialist conception here, this is, isn't mere appearance the conventional reality, is the question here. And so the answer is that, this is what was pointed out above. Any person who believes appearances to be conventional and also believes, deep in his heart or her heart, that freedom from conceptual elaborations regarding that is the ultimate. So as soon as you have a two things, conventional and ultimate, and then as soon as you have a grasping at something, then it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're grasping at conventional or grasping at ultimate. If you're grasping at truth, you're grasping at falsity. Grasping is grasping. It's all grasping.
Ona tache ogdis hia charsong mara. Charsong. Ona dembani dembr menzen pi lola chigdang isen zembr zhor hi ba tian de japar chi long tan ba yin de se ta ti boi gna ten tonong ren do ta ding ni ri ona dembani se dembr menzen be ta kan la nawa cham chi lak re we la na tang bo de de nawa cham chi lak ro re we la na ma re la ni de ni de gang xie re 다 오나 뎀바니스 뎀버 만전비 뎀바니스 만전버 로데 다 로직데 니리 라야 경자쇼 저 데트디 뎀바니스 만선나 뎀바니스 만전비 양 로데 직니세 직다 요 말이 송요 그거서 두예 맨나 두추요 말이세 가서 대치게요 때때 뭐미 값을 남겨서 버려 봐 그봐 배나 데레 ता चिकते पे याक बोरे ना जरको ना कली हो जरे तकपी मुला मारा पर तेई मुमेन जन्मायन तेवचिर जन्पी मुकायन तेई मुमे सर्व जन शिवा लाग सोरे जोंजिक शेरब लेवर ने करे लंगोर तकपी मुलास खोरंग ने चांसे हा मुमित क लोदे मुमित मुबो मेपा हिबे लोदे तकपी मुसे चांय लुपार तकपी मुपोला ngupo hibashi drumni teni ngumisa de yongyor samlo de yongyor ngupo me nyambi samlo de ngupo la teni yongyor da ko so ngupo zambala jezang chekang tangbo de takbi ngula marak barte ngumin zama isa de ngupo zamba se a ji menna ngumi den zamba se a de yongshik mares ta di chna ngupo meba ko na ngumi yang meba kontrol 다 건좀 된바 매 돈좀 된바 니스 맨나 더니 니스 매비 매바세지 럭스 용식 말이스 딜란잡르다 딘자 딘지딜라 란잡식 말이스 모심고 부모처럼 매 살나 모심고 부모데 zugrang보레다 통통레 카르보레다 마르보레 라야 요 말발라리 데나 jakpar longtam바세나 란잡야스 돈다리 롱탄세 니가서 란잡야가 돈다리 마 바르지 히야야가 돈다리 르신잡야가 돈다리 롱탄바세야 돼 옛나야 고다트라피 돈다리 저당 롱탄바세야 돼 당니닝 바 고다트바 다트로바가 돈다리 근데 다트로바 섬치발라 롱탄바 섬치발라 그요 자자 라트지야가 돈다리 근데 캔사 히오르지 옛나야 띠란 마제과데 란지 라고 다디가스 저는 어때리 다 야가야가리스 야가야가리 저는 라인을 라고
Okay, so however, still for a mind that does not believe in the reality of the two truths, to ask whether they are one or two is like asking whether the son of a barren woman is blue or white. And this, as is cited in scripture, it will change based on Khenpo's explanation, saying, that is your answer, just drop it. So this is, it's a nice sentence, but let's unpack it. So, for a mind that does not believe in the reality of the two truths. So, we can't just leave it as mere appearance. But let's say it, if we're going to drop that, grasping at twofold truth, we still have this, if there is a basis for a mutual relationship, dependence, if there's a basis for dependence, you can only have something dependent if there's a basis for it to depend on. So if you don't have the basis for dependence, you won't have the dependent object. So there's a wonderful verse in the wisdom chapter of the Bodhicharyavatara by Shantideva, where he talks about trying to realize the lack of material reality. But coming to understand the lack of material reality only happens if there is material reality. Like the lack of material reality can only be posited on the basis, in comparison to material reality. So really, to get rid of it, what you have to do is you have to get rid of grasping at material reality. once you drop the discussion of material reality, then you no longer have to get rid of it. So this is what he's saying, is that so once you're, when you are in, when there's no longer duality, there's no longer a singularity either. And there's nothing, that you can kind of depend upon, that you can hold on to. And so that's your answer, So it's like trying to talk about it is as ridiculous as trying to talk about the son of a barren woman. Is, the child tall or short, or, what color is he? You just can't even talk about it. And so, that is your answer. So this, again, this last little bit of the sentence should be translated like, that is your answer. And so now just drop it,
Then in the Jakpar long tambasiwasi poigla doa, te la lopo yingning ke ngomba ke nang la long tomba yi song yore, tina ke chigre, pena lan japtang namba manjawa yi sewa song yore, pena me jamba trawa ti te la lan japtang yi yore, tina ke chig te la Jakpar long tambasi yore.
So this is actually a technical term. So it you can read more in the footnote. It's very confusing. This is me as a translator talking now. If you're reading the Tibetan and you're not super learned, it's very confusing because it looks like, put it down and then prophecy something. And so why are we talking about prophecy? But Khenpo is explaining that this is actually an old-fashioned word for just an answer. It just means give an answer. But the word for prophecy can have many different meanings. But anyway, but now Khenpo's actually adding this fact that in Vasubandhu's Abhidharmakosha, he talks about 4 different ways of prophesizing. When you look at that list, he's talking about 4 different ways of giving answers. So this another, support for this interpretation.
Tati tsawa de ngochik tang na namchie tang zhedang yakpar long tambasi tsatsik tera ri. Ina terang ten zheki jatuh mari jinang kembora kanti shina inji kan song.
So there's 4 ways of giving an answer according to the Vasubandhu list. One of them is giving an answer by dropping the matter. So, but anyway, the rest of them you are advised to ask Khenpo Tenzin to elaborate.
Khenpo zhawa ngala tsara ndirichi ngi zhawa kongpa ndirichi.
We throw questions back and forth at each other.
Oh yeah, that tamaderes yang chi pass.
So, and a further question on page 10. Now, this is the last question, and then it's break time.
Ona chochak bi yong chet awshi drubjena je o charang zu zoba chimbu bate zo zxin bate zo ne kari lap yo lapti ko chak na chechak ga tawa ngamba dokba chamde choran ga dangzan de zo da ti nam tok de zo mar meba zo da ngi likare mar tok ngara nam tok sarba ji zo ya lika me la je zang lak tun che am drbu yinna ya ta jikten tar nyed nga zo ka che he di da nyamba chimbu tawashi lapkuyo rete tawa ngoni de la lepchana nyamba chimbu tawa seru himba de yo mariso yo chokoma.
So a further question, what then does your tradition establish? So what, you Dzogchenpas, like what is it that you're saying? And Rongzom responds, we only repudiate your inferior metaphysical views without establishing any superior point of our own. So my job is not to create new conceptual thoughts for you, he says. So in customary usage, so I'm not here to add anything. But in customary usage, so we are in the world, where we have to talk, we use language, we have to talk about things. So this is called the view of great equality, even though there is no belief whatsoever in any metaphysical view. So we have to give it a name, but really we have no clinging to a view.
Ta teper na nga chu 오 단니도 냠바 침부 따와랍디 양 냠바 침부 세마직 세마 녀르다나 때 적신 착해요 말이야 제선 즈모고 다와탄디 다와타 고르마도 즈모타다나 다완통고 말이스 베틴디지 돈 남진 송고요와 대라인디 냠바 침부 따와히 말럽 랑럽 착해요레데 따워 심바 메바데 하고 고요.
So again, we have to say, we have to call it something. So we call it the view of great equality. But as soon as we say that, then you start to think, oh, there's this view called the view of great equality. And then that is not Dzogchen, right? You haven't gotten to Dzogchen there. So it's just like we have this example of a finger pointing at the moon. The point is to look at the moon. The point is not to look at the finger. If you look at the finger, you haven't seen the moon. And so we don't have a choice. We have to call it something. So we call it the view of great equality. But the point is, not to. But we don't cling at the view.
See you after break.
See you after break. It's a technical. Put it down.
Dear 在现场吗？你们有一个 Dear
Oh, Dale?
Who is Dear 你先问问题了，我答应了，所以他中午有问题，我就说那就是不是你有问题对吧？Yeah. No.
Oh,
Slow.
can you bring her the mic? Yeah.
Yes, microphone. 现在我们就可以开始就开放问答，然后我这边有一个荣尊班知道的这个佛像，需要的人可以给，不需要的人不用拿。如果有一家两个一起这样的话，我建议只拿一个就可以了。
Okay.
Oh, sorry,
So,
I use Mandarin. Oh, no, sorry.
So,
Okay. 네 상말에 피아이언스. Okay. 옛날에 어다치랑 할 거서.
So we're going to start question and answer session now. But also, I just wanted to let everyone know that I have these images of Rongsom. And so if you, anyone who wants one, if you don't want one, please don't take one. If you want one, please come take one. And please take one per household.
아니 가르스나 카시양 초튼다 된다면 저 역사 강을 요지 된다 가면 도와. 된디 랑나 쳐야 말아 때려.
Yeah, because there's some people who feel like they have enough photos on their shrine already or whatever, so don't take it if that's how you feel.
되는 가서 근데 저한테는 차만도 디피기인지 다다야 용고 말이지.
Okay, so then I'll distribute those after the question and answer. So we're going to do question and answer first, and then at the end, anyone who would like an image is welcome to come up.
야, 저한테로 microphone 기타.
Thank you. The day before yesterday, Khenpo mentioned that an arhat has realized the lack of identity of the self, but an arhat still perceives the five skandhas. So my question is, if an arhat has realized there is no selflessness, how an arhat perceives the skandhas, the five skandhas?
Okay, so cousin Drachumba Gangsa Gidangme told Urji, in Chu Gidangme de told maybe Wange Pongbonga de Mutune Sigiardi. Any decandes in a chick Gangsa Gidangme de told Sarna, that chick Chu Nawa de Candes Sigiardi.
뭐야? 다들 가서라 냠냠 매장배 시작하고 요레스 의이 니처레스데. 예나양 저당기 강작 당진데 풍보데라 미그니 풍보데 강작 dak지세와데 차다. 강작 dak세온데 풍보 말이. 예나 풍보라 dak도 종요레. 예나 띠 풍보라 dak 메바 하고도 되니 당진 독독요. 되니 가서 풍보 작바데 랑진 메바 독요레. 저 당때 용자레. 작바데다 메바 독요레. 예나 풍보고 짜와가 디 짜와가 체민이들 다다 가서 송송아 가지 참이 데니가데 데밋 독요 말 독고요 말이 다조 된다고레스.
Yeah, so this is a good question, and it's hard to talk about when we don't have experience of, being arhats ourselves. So, but it's true, right? So the arhat realizes the selflessness of the person, but but continues to see the body, continues to see the skandhas. So basically, when we look at the skandhas and we take those to be ourself, but so when the arhat realizes the selflessness of the person, the arhat, realizes selflessness of the person, but continues to see the body. So he realizes that the body is not himself, and yet but he continues to see it. So the body is like the coarse form of there's like the coarse form of appearances or phenomena, and so arhats actually do start to see the selflessness of those coarse phenomena, but they don't realize it to the full extent of realizing the selflessness of the two types of partlessness that we mentioned earlier, of the mind and of particles. So that's the part that they don't realize.
Tani perna yang chuji dangzin yore de yang da chumbala lakchi dang lakme nyangdi ni yorwa. Lakme nyangdi ge kaps yang de chuji dangzin de ngwand kyur yorwes na yo maris. Da tesu yang ngomba na la dana hibde yores. Terang teza ma to hitok maris.
So then when we talk about the selfhood of phenomena, or the selflessness of phenomena, there is a difference in terms of, there's like two stages of nirvana. There's nirvana with remainder and nirvana without remainder. So basically what the case is that the selflessness of phenomena is not actualized until nirvana without remainder is attained. So this is a very detailed explanation of this is given in the Abhidharma. We don't have time to talk about it today.
Oh, next question.
Okay, yeah, never mind. Okay, actually, I'd like to ask one question. This is coming from someone. I'm sorry. Okay.
Thank you, Khenpo La, for your teachings. I have a very basic question. I've been struggling a little bit to understand the difference between nominal reality and substantial reality. So I've been thinking about the example of giving something the name Tashi, and it could have nominal or referential reality by being given that name. But it could also simultaneously have substantial reality. It could actually be Tashi. So it seems to me that something could be both nominally real and substantively real at the same time. I might be confused about that. So that's question one. Can something be both of those things at the same time? Question two is, if they can, then why in position one do they accept or reject nominal truth?
Okay.
So the Zesuyoba dang taksuyoba ni the kasang peshani tashi miching tashi ming tang ni that the taksuyoba yin yang Zesuyoba yang yin sig reves nika the Zesuyoba dang taksuyoba the dunyam yo sig reves check and kisi yuna the niento kapsu the taksuyoba the yomaris la goet cartides.
Chetang zisi yopa tang takpi yopa lavia de nga tso Tetawi Zisen Zankan Tang, Takbaran Zankan Ki Kansakla Tuni Heka Yoris, Tomate Kokores.
So when we're talking about nominal reality and substantial reality, it's from the perspective of the person who's observing. It's from the viewer's perspective.
Teni yang Zis Yopa Tang, Takbaran Yopa Nigi Yimton Yorevesa, the Jedon try in Tao Husha.
So then the question of, is there a basis for that nominal reality or substantial reality? That's a really naughty question. It's a very good question.
Yeah, good question.
Like not, like not, you know, like okay. Tied up in knots.
Kareris na Ronzum Bag Sonka Nang la mixer laptang chiore. Kareris na Guma de Matsu Guma Dember matter Pena Tayures. Gumi Langboche da Zumaris, Muniga da Koran, Jadang Langboche de Dembaris Ampiore, Ronzumbi, Gumi Langboche de Dembaris. Demba in Bitsat, Muniga Langboche de Chipachi Jari Lapia, Tending Sonstantiores.
So there's one way of interpreting what Rongzum says as meaning that, say that we're talking about an illusory elephant. So we have a real elephant that has, you know, then we have an illusory elephant, and we'll say that that lacks an inherent reality. However, from one way of interpreting Rongzum's position is that from his perspective, an illusory elephant is actually, you know, it's also real, just like a real elephant.
Ronzum don't Sonyore. Nanchu Jingla Mbale se we transon Chiores.
Bali.
Mbale se we transon Chiores.
So
Mar. Mbale se we Michigores. Persetere. De Pugu Chigores. Pugu de transon Chigla Chuyares, Joliares, Rob Nyarok Chile, Nyares. Pugu de Laxonres.
Drangson the Chu.
Transon la Pugu de Nyarok Chilares.
Oh, Nyaroche. Oh.
And Tamate la Pugu de transon Lachiores.
Okay, so Rongzum tells a story about a man named Bali. Bali had a son, and there was a sage who asked to...
Transon.
Yeah, like a rishi who asked to take his son, you know, keep his son as a servant or something. And so his son went to live with the sage and then got lost.
And Transon Cheris, that Tashi di Korang, Turbag, Bogochis, Turjaris, Turniti Korang Titataris, Titaris. Titani, Bogoti, Yar, Chimbocha, Chansa, Bogoti, she Tamag part the Kuturba data, Taran Shacharis, and the Korang Bogolika Chetaris.
So then the rishi was really worried that he had lost Bali's child, so he actually emanated an emanation child to take his place, sent him back to his father, and that child, the emanation child, grew up and, you know, got married and started a career. And
Chezang Rongzum Bag, Tetsu Mambu, Taton Pekahi, Jinyam de Yayore, Tetsu Jimson de Cheni. Matsu Juma Dember Mandus, Nimu Unig Nawa de Dembandu Lavrite, Korang is Nirkup Dela, Nigi Likachiki, Nirkup Daily Par Garsona, Nikala Likayomare, Sony, Trison yours. Nika. Capdela, Juma and Juma Main and the Korang, Chunik Muz Logba, the Malok Basi Taniji, that the Payaware, and a jerka winjere, Chuniji Muz Logba Sigro. Chuni Jingu Logba, Doba, Tikaps, Nigala Lika Yomari, Chuni Jingu Malona, Nigaya, Soso Tonchepala, Chigbari.
So, according to Rongzum, it's all in the kind of present moment, that in the present moment, whether it's an illusory child or a real child, this doesn't actually make a difference, because as long as the reality of the essentialist reality has not been overturned, then the two operate in the same way.
강다리야 저땅이나 따요 데코라 지요 마리 지요 데 따요 마리스 데니가 냠도 창라야 지요 마리 랍다 답되고.
But in general, the nominal existence is not substantial existence. Substantial existence is not nominal existence, and the two don't happen at the same time.
롱좀 그 송때 주고 협그 시거나 닥친 전적이 나라서 그렇지다나 베잉 야보요레스.
So if you're interested in this question, I refer you to Rongsam's text on entering the way of the Mahayana.
Next.
Okay, I cannot ask a question that was Khenpo.
하고 무슨 나이것을 현주 나게게라. 오케이. 他也举手了，哪个线呢？
No, it's a question that someone submitted.
哦，讲到第几了贴个的。Huh? Who is first?
Okay. So I have a question that was given to me by someone in the room who didn't want to ask it directly. So the question is, we are given the ultimate view, but our actual experience, is a grasping dualistic mind, kleshas, and so forth. So how do we thin out this grasping at duality? Especially if we think about progressing through these 5 views or something. How do we, thin out this grasping? And how do we not allow ourselves to just kind of indulge in playing with the view? So, okay, do you want the theory? Ngato minga gi tatang ti chik rimba shindun droya ina ta chik zimba ti mar zimba di do tumna kali yarjin droga yasari yene ngato ta dun damba korla go yarji yene chik ngosu chik zimba shuk chembo shiwa chik yarji ta zimba di mar lu tu tangya ti tapshi kari res. And they check the nima di tawa korla samlo tang dena di ta chik tu da tsemo tseya rawa chik nga tso yengwa rawa chagi dowa chik tawa yapos hako gudo yene tawa korla samlo mang rana yang das yengwa rawa chik druba rawa chagi dowa.
Chik de tawa korla samlo tang gore yena yang samlo tang mang tagna dikyo mares tenda idin chamla jogom cheko yore chamma pena thui lami nanjor gom thui yermet cheni tani che amasum yella chepa war che sarahaba ga sonro chapa ngarso yinda loji shos pena ma tangcha kalibe tangcha ningarso japa na ye kan samlo kan maybe thoni dana yakbo yores 참참아 삼로 힙도 땅이 온드르 제샤 상야 삼로 땅고리스 데라 짝곰 땅조 곰세레스 니가 송드르치 고리스
송드. So in terms of the second part of the question, it's important to think about the view. Even if it risks, turning into intellectual play, it's actually important to think about the view. And so from time to time we need to do sometimes we need to think about the view, and it's called analytical meditation. where you sit down and think through things conceptually. And then sometimes we need to do what's called placing meditation, where you rest your mind inseparable with the enlightened mind of the guru, for instance, like in Guru Yoga or something. So we see this in Saraha's songs. He talks about the need to unify or have a connection between our analytic meditation and our placement meditation. We can go back and forth between the two.
Oh, yeah.
So, is that true that for Dzogpo Khenpo view, even the extremes of nihilism and eternalism are concepts and it's false and doesn't exist? If that's true, how then we can live fearlessly without relying on any concept and still have loving kindness and bodhicitta?
So, Dzogchen ki tawa na chibe ta dang takpe ta ni nika tokpa namto tsigi rivers kongsu togi rivers de kongsu tokpa ina nga so chik jignang maybe tola chik namto dang maybe tola chik jam ningje dang janju sam de kandis pay to kres de kandis gompel dang to kres
Tate perna chorang ki dzogchin tang dzogchin ki nyamling ki jenken yembi mangto nguni chetang ge jam nyarji de su takta chantari samni nyamling ge kaps tenda samna norwaris yena yang chorang dzogchin ge tawa te tok charwi kaps gomba khinse gozar yin se rangjing ge ikpa mi pi nyarji de libyon kuyoris kangri yomaris dela maleb gon 참참 라적신 곰 고요레 참참 조바 곰 고요런 참참 nyarji 곰 고요레스 이나야 적신 그 따와 코랑 그 무니 티 nyarji 라 소바 돈라 코랑 그 실라 즉 데라 잠바 토니 마임바지 고요레스 어때리스 데디 따와 곰바니가 현지하데 배 같이 모레스
So, in the context of meditation, practicing Dzogchen, then yes, we could say that you need to abandon concepts and that these, loving kindness and so forth might be is a concept. But once you have realized the view of Dzogchen, then it's said that it is there is the kind of natural shining forth of the light rays of wisdom and love. So naturally, compassion arises once you have realized the view of Dzogchen. So there's nothing you need to do about that. But that being said, before we have realized the view, when we are practicing, then we kind of sometimes we meditate on Dzogchen, sometimes we need to meditate on patience, sometimes we need to meditate on compassion, so you can, move your focus around. But within the view of Dzogchen itself, then we don't want to be we should not be distracted by grasping at concepts. But so the key here is to know how to separate, actually, distinguish the view from meditation.
Tani perna nga tso li tangpo pa ge tawa ge ngang la ni nguni dzogchen rang ge tawa ngang la ni thap khom ma res ma thap chang thap shin damara tang ko yo re pa ro Rinpoche ge yang mbunga ngunru mbunga te li tangpo pa ge chu re sam pa te non chu res 인지면 지금 적증이 적친 곰니 야르기 땅고 요래때 적증이 링약 기저당 잠녀지라서 봐 뱀바바제나 남식나 디 적신 똑발라 판독 요래지. 강을잖아. 적신 똑발라 대양 사라하바가 송레스. 사실 초석 드바 딱비 라지 땅 똑던 라미 진랍 코나리 탑진 템바 몽버 히버샤스 사라하비 도하가 나나. 적재침부터 똑바가 탑시 때 초석 바당 드바 장와당 라미 진랍 섬레스. 디 양바요 말이서. 양바면나 뜻섬디 고요.
Right. So as beginners, it's important that we don't abandon our other types of virtuous activities. You know, that Patrul Rinpoche said that to kind of, you know, abandon, for beginners, to abandon the accumulation of merit and other virtuous actions, you know, thinking that you're going straight to Dzogchen is a mistake, you know. So, and these actions actually help, the accumulation of merit and so forth actually help you realize Dzogchen. And so, again, we can quote a verse from Saraha's songs where he says that Mahamudra is realized through three things: through accumulating the accumulations, purifying the obscurations, and the blessings of the Lama. So anything else, you know, doesn't lead to the realization of Mahamudra. It's only these three.
Perna naropaga kawachimbu jet mare. Garchen chugni, Garchen chugni sire. Oh. Kawachimbo nyuki 잡시대 끌리직라 젠디 드니 타마텔라 추르름 람기 골라지리다 데마타도 똑바 톱송을 생도와 데리스.
So that's why we see, for instance, in the life story of Naropa, that first he underwent 12 great and 12 minor trials of his body, so 24 physical trials. And then at the very end of those, Tilopa whacked him on the head with his shoe. And that's how he gained realization, you know. It's the same thing. It happens in the same order.
Guru Rinpoche hiardam ga nangla de yore. Tawa ten namkha nang ki jachi go de li gerd ga langder de tsamba nang yi yib go de song. Yiwate.
So Guru Rinpoche says the same thing, that, you know, your view should be as vast as the sky, but your adherence to karma and cause and effect should be as fine as tsampa, so flour, you know, like a particle of flour.
Huh?
Here we go. Sorry, Agonda already. So actually, my question has something to do with the question that was just asked. You know, I think that we've had a lot of really deep conversations here, and it's really quite impressive and amazing. So thank you. And I want to talk about, I think it was kind of mentioned a little bit, and this is something that is tied in all paths of Buddhism, and even in the sort of like the Eightfold Path, it's talked about the right view, or like samaditi or samadrishti, like perfect or good view, is really like the entryway to the Dharma. It's like the way that is, you know, it's important. And that not only that we have all habituated all kinds of wrong views of both nihilism and eternalism from countless lifetimes past, and that it's actually wrong view that is the reason why we're bound, like the main reason we're bound in samsara is because of our wrong view. And that's really cultivating the right view is sort of the entryway, right, to all the other right action, right speech, right conduct, these kinds of things. So my question, I guess, is sort of like, one, like we can't just sort of like we read something like this, we can't just turn on the view and off like a light switch, right? Or we can't just say like, oh, you know, I know I read something with 5 sentences about Dzogchen, so I can just take the ladder out from underneath me, or I can shoot the hole in the boat just because I can see the shore over there, right? So I think that there's a lot of questions around that I've heard and discussed as like, oh, you know, I can now have these no concepts, but I see just in the same way Guru Rinpoche says, you know, he talks about the danger of being lost in the view that one can say like, oh, my mind is vast as sky, so now I can just do anything. It's, you know, or as Zongsar Khyentse Rinpoche says, like, if one is not awake yet from the dream, then you can't really act as though like your dream is a lucid dream, kind of thing. Okay, yeah. So I wanted to really address that and like, what are the dangers of getting lost in like these views? Thank you. Sorry.
Tabo gonda the Yanche Rinpoche the and Tuji Ches the Kaju Bimasi Ting Savo Chasong and Tuji Ches and the Kaju Joja the picture Yang Tawa the not so Paglam Paglam Ge Yanak Ge
Paglam Yalak Ge Parchimento.
The Nana be Yoris the Nangbe Chug Jukgo the Tigieris Yinang Tawa Lokbe Tawa the young not so Tirap Jang the joke Lokbe Tawa Yang the Dig Bakchak Bioris and it chick lo Parva Nangshin not so chick Yang Tawa the chick Gan Lepkimaris the Guru Rinpoche Kari Sonis and that Khenpo ge long Drangba Nashin the Tawa the Dza Khenpo go yoris. The Tawa the Dza Chedra ne yang Dinana so la drogidos lana nortu mambo saga yoris. That the Tawa nana so la droyag nyenka qualitas deshin on checks.
Okay. Trape Yapotu.
Excellent question.
Yinayang. 다 탑시 때 다낭 효과 rinpoche가 송하테리 잔시윈 잠바당 시진니가 인사리스 문이 현나.
So it's an excellent question. The answer really comes down to what Rinpoche was talking about this morning. It's mindfulness and alertness, those two.
대양 ring전 직밀링바가 송시 ngur시요르 비 작침버리 디낭라 Zhan Xijin Zhongwa Nong'erji Lamkir se Zhanbadang Xijin Ji Zhongwa se Zhong se na ya bogo chongson ina da ya da bo jaba nang yin ji ni Zhongwa de Nong'erji gi Tmung ki Lamkir da ji Tmung ki de nyamlen jetang di ge nyamlen ge so so ge da ba de songjup jetang nyamlen de songjup jetang re song do.
So Jigme Lingpa has there's a song by Jigme Lingpa in which he says that nurturing mindfulness and alertness is the shared practice of sutra and tantra.
Tene pe nanga so moja tangbo jang de ge gang tar yang man na ila chokre yana yana chokre lam ka khap de ra de pe khap bo yor bas. 다 탑시 찍대 잡습진 일이 지야리 때는 가서 그 박차가 왕긴 참참아 따와가 촉라 자체다 참참아 곰바가 촉라 걷다가 넣는 거래 때 약부 지 찬임증 좋아라 소소고 찍나 투삼지고 그래 니나나 라말라스 라탑고 요리 선바는 남진 소소라 다시 지야 되리스 어디리스.
And so it's a kind of like when we first learn how to drive, it's very hard to just keep a straight line. You're always veering right or left or right anyway. And so it's the same way when we are practicing. There isn't necessarily one specific technique, but we have to be careful. And so sometimes our view gets too vast. Sometimes our conduct gets too narrow. So the solution to this, one, is to study, listen to, and contemplate the Dharma. Two is to supplicate the Guru. And then the third is just to watch yourself.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Khenpo La, for all of these teachings these last few days. So the view of basic equality, which is the fifth, number 5, how, as that view is realized, does Rigpa become co-emergent with that realization, as well as the state of Mahamudra or non-meditation? That's the first question. Are they realized at the same time? And is it possible that from other traditions, not necessarily Buddhist traditions, that I've read about, other masters, have attained the same realizations without the particular techniques or ways of viewing that we've learned from Rongzampa, etc., etc.?
Ta ngapa di nyamba chimbo tawa ribe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nyamba chimbo tawa di tokpe kapsu rigpa lenki kigiribes. Ni daga nangshin go maybe ninjur ke 자기야 첨부 비양 두냠 토기르베스 톡바 톱기르베스 디책 된 주아니와 디 냠바 첨부 따와 디 치바 낭바 마임바 게 칙 드롭톱 데서 게톡 시기르베스 칙나디 따와 디 따와 nga khayan runga la jawa mejo tang chik nang pe chuge tablam maten de jo the so yang chik tokpa tende top sigrives.
Oh yeah. Chwa tangbo de te chirang ge tarni de ya mixer chik song lanchik jiba, ba lanchik jib. Lanchik jiba de sarahaba ge song ta gon ta sarahaba ge longtong se de ngi ki on yo marwa ta gon ni longdang ge me de ngi loks tan da te chom do ma to sarahaba ge song di nang la ni hib dai lanchik jiba hib chik de pe ma bo yong ge yo re. Tenda 이 적바 침보양 송요 말 착자 침보 히브 측대한 뇨뇨래 사라하바 송망 제와가 나나 란직지베 예시 란직지바 저 측대 용고요 대변난 같이 보시래 강따랑 저랑게 란직지바 땅 고밋 그 살라 렘나 냠바 침보 살라 레브리스 때 예샤자레스 어디래 저와당 볼란테.
So, to the first question, you used a very interesting term, the term co-emergence, which is, so once again, I will quote Saraha, and I might not have I don't have a precise quote to cite, but I'll just say that when I read through Saraha's songs, I noticed that he uses this term co-emergence over and over again. So he doesn't talk about Dzogchen, he rarely talks about Mahamudra, but he talks about the co-emergent primordial wisdom over and over again. And so I think there's something very significant there. But just in the short answer is that if you have realized, the co-emergence of primordial wisdom, if you have reached the Mahamudra, the state of non-meditation, then definitely you have realized the view of great equality.
Ni zhiwa nipa de pe yagbo res, pe na rang sang ji da wo dang. De na chan zong ge zen ke nang la yang natural rang zhong ge de ge tokpa tokpa gang sak de ge yong ge yo res. Den de yo se sa res. De zang de ma 니스톤 쭈르고로라 잡진 가르친 rinpoche ngala tenri dronsi sonyo pomosi chikina cheranso ti dronde konyo jere kongesala yoni korang ranjing ki chik tenri ki chik semke nilu o ndere samyan ro tenri semwishia ro chongson segdo ti kaps nangba tangbo chi menduk yena ya konguti na ti semwishia te tak tak rigduk songduk tenra yen chang ngonji gewi chawa da molong ku to ranjing ke semwishia da toba toba yores yena ya de girls in Nandata, Tawakarta Chajitang, dangme tang, tongne tang, ziyorwa, tili garwa yo maris, gar choko yo maris. Nangba tokpa yina la yinda.
So now, in terms of your second question, we can think of like the Pratyeka Buddhas who, or also in the Zen tradition, in Chinese Chan tradition, they also talk about individuals who kind of naturally realize, reach realization kind of on their own, without relying on a teacher. So actually in 2019, Garchen Rinpoche told me about an instance that something that happened to him. Maybe you've heard him talk about this too, but he said a woman came to see him and said that she wasn't Buddhist, but she had realized the natural state of her mind just like she naturally felt that she understood what the natural state of the mind was. And when Rinpoche questioned her, like she had it right, like she really, her description was correct. And she wasn't Buddhist. Something like that when something like this happens, that is the ripening of virtue from previous lifetimes. And so that definitely can happen to people who don't, haven't encountered the Dharma, don't consider themselves Buddhists. That's definitely a possibility. On the other hand, that being said, they can't be holding views that are in conflict with the Buddhist view, right? So they can't be somehow denying the truth of selflessness or, denying emptiness, something like that. It won't, work out that way. So.
Tenda yendi kaji nga hyo jire no nga parsa ta sang ji song lam kan yore te su ri de pe nyi ka chimbo chak de yore je zang nga mo zen dang dorji thakba changma ga lam ni tendi ge rikpa ngo tro ya ga lu yore se rikpa ngo tro na ya te komri ma chi na long chen ram job ge te song ba ringo tro na ya kyarang ga men ten yak bu ji jin jang ma do na nam tok ga ja ga chi tro ge re se pe na mak jab sa mak yo sa na yo pe bo chong chong nang ji nin ka na la yo re song yo re tenda yen zang de wi jang lama gi wi xian yin ge men tu ni jang ni lama la den ni men ten ni yar ji dang a de pe nang ga chen bo re se ji xin de de ko kan yo re de na de de yang ten di ko re se.
So I should also mention that when you have an experience like this, it's sometimes very hard to understand whether what you've experienced is actual realization or a passing experience. And so, what stage are you actually at? And so sometimes you see people, sometimes there are people who have what is really just a temporary passing experience, but they convince themselves that they are something very advanced, like a Buddha, like I am a Buddha, sort of. That kind of misunderstanding is extremely dangerous. And so that's why, both in the Zen tradition and in the Vajrayana tradition, in both cases, the tradition insists on having this practice of introducing disciples to the view, and then once you have been introduced to the view, you have to habituate it through meditation. So like Longchenpa said, even if you have received introduction to the view, you need to habituate it through meditation, and if not, you will be carried off by the demon of conceptual thought, and so it's just as dangerous as throwing a small child in the middle of a battlefield. So that's why if you have some insight, or some kind of experience like this, then you need to find a teacher. It's totally possible that that experience can arise for someone who, doesn't have a teacher, hasn't met the Dharma. But when that experience arises, it's very crucial that that person find a teacher to help them to continue to, to help them to continue to develop their meditation and their realization.
Thank you so much, everybody, for asking your questions, and thank you, Khenpo La, for your teachings. This may be a bit intellectual play, so forgive me if that's the case, but we've spoken about the two types of ignorance earlier on in the teachings, co-emergent ignorance and imputed ignorance. And Garchen Rinpoche and Robbie brought up co-emergent primordial awareness, and Garchen Rinpoche mentioned that this morning with Sahaja Chakra Samvara. And so my question is, how do I word it? This is where it gets intellectual. There's two co-emergent things. Maybe it's illusory things, but neither seems to have any ontological priority over the other. So I'm just kind of wondering what the physics are with regards to realizing our co-emergent Buddha nature when there's also co-emergent ignorance. So for an example, if I realize my co-emergent chakra samvara energy, when I look in the mirror, what am I seeing?
Okay.
The thinking said the biju ni sorry cartons na ngato marik ba ke ni dressing nang song ani chik thinking ki marik ba dang kunta ki marik ba.
Yeah.
Da Garchen Rinpoche dang da jiwa tangking mini ge yang thinking ki yeshi ki korla de shi de those. 아니 다 생기 타니 데 베추치 당 니요사레 아니 나서 생기 예시 대시 님보게 생기 예시게 토고나 다 생기 마릭 바양 데 대치 칼리캅 오소기 민도에스 버치로 오소기 민도에스 아니 베치 샤고나 nga랑 생기 뎀초 사구 드럽나 티니가 멜롱 나나 nga랑 동바 대용배 값을 nga 가리 통사레스.
Okay. Tati tarni tagarang res. Yenayang marik pala karich ni lanchik ji lap kuntuks. Rangshong gu ishi la karich ni lanchik ji ba lap kuntuks. Ti tarni tingu tsu zona ni nyokda yo mares. Tena yen zangpe na nga tsu marik pala lanchik ji bu marik pa sewa ti kontak la tu ni jaka yore. Nga tsu tangbo churui kaapsa simshen namla tiga rangshing ke yore sewi tondang re ti lanchik bi marik pa sewi yore. Yena yang lanchik ji bu ishi se kirmo tiga di marik paran churui tina yang di tsawa de tadong deli chang karang ka tiga yen in chur ma nyongwa ishi yin pa te. 통마 매반이 가서 뭐 마시나 이시 지랑신 연바텔라 산지 집에 이시 성고 요레스 데 대가는 것이 하고 그랬더니다 이나 산지 집은 아니 산지 부 마릭 바데 야 산지 집에 이시라더니 로버 바레 연장 길라마나나 드마 남는 로버 바 송도와 어때레스 로버 그레스 데 이것은 뜬득사스
So right, so we use this same word in two ways, or we have it's the same word used in two different contexts, and so I think it will become clear if we ask why does co-emergent ignorance arise? Why does co-emergent wisdom arise? And so it's about why. So now. Co-emergent ignorance is used in contrast to, and therefore independence upon, another concept of imputed ignorance. So in contrast to imputed ignorance, co-emergent ignorance is that which exists, from the very beginning of our confusion, of our samsaric confusion. So now, when you are able to liberate the root, cut through the root of that ignorance, then actually primordially you were never confused. That is called co-emergent primordial wisdom. And so now the contrast to co-emergent primordial wisdom is kind of like a adventitious or temporary, like a all of a sudden, but short-lived primordial wisdom. Yeah.
Tani yang sanjik ki bisi te yang ti ngala yore sami tichok ngapki chang samlo dana nores. Churui ti dang manchurui ti la kyapar mebar yopa yeni korang jetar ngajin chi te gyunjirwa mebi chunye do sonrwa. Jetar ngajin chi te pena manchurui kab de durma songwa, churui kab de durma songwa, manchurui kab de zangrma songwa sewa. Tendra tela lanchi ki bala kor mar to yang te ngapsi chang chi tichu digi samlo dana ya lanchi ki beisi te tata te labdwa demba ni ji chabar la chuk sewa ngaso te chaksare demba ni par la chuk ya da charwa. Te zabzab gores. Te che sang tawa se tak so namgen de so te la samlo chi tang ni. So la tansu chi gor mar to ten samlo tang de yang chup do.
So now, on the other hand, when we talk about co-emergent primordial wisdom, then, there is there's actually, from the perspective of co-emergent primordial wisdom, there's actually no difference as to whether we are confused or not confused. And so, it's through realizing it, you don't improve it, not realizing it, being confused, you don't somehow make it worse. It's not affected by that. And that's what makes it co-emergent, actually. But if you don't understand that point carefully, then it's exactly like what's said about the, getting caught in between the intertwined threads of the two truths. So we have to be really careful about that point. And for that reason, it's important to check our view, regularly check your view. But then again, when you're thinking about the view, then it's easy to fall into that trap too. So.
Yeah, next.
The last paragraph more or less says that when you get past all incorrect views, you reach something called the view of great equality. And I would like to have the view of great equality, but I'm not sure what that means. What is equal to what? Can you explain that?
Nyamba chimpu tawa seya di nyamba seya di tunda ni nyambo yumbe kecharides and kari ni nyamgirides kari.
Yeah. Kunzup tang tondam nisim nyamba. Per na chuyang Rinpoche zot ywa. Chuyang Rinpoche zot dharma dardu gokha. Di nang la kunzup tondam yang nyamba tang se song yorwa. Yang se na chuji yang. Ying. Ying se nyamba tang. Te song a te yin zang tiki nyamba te o tindi tonda res.
So it's conventional and ultimate truth are equal. That's what's being brought into equality. So for instance, in the Chuing Tzu, the treasury of the Dharma Dhatu, there's a line that says that conventional and ultimate are equal within the Dhatu, within the sphere.
Che zang, tar nyamba chimbo labri de korang nyam sona Denigan Zamba Chabozava you Machopa Yenzang, Deni Nyamba Muni Teres, Demba Nis, Jarni, Deni Deniga Nyam the Nyamna, and Scuba Carbo Naponia Nyam the Drumbana in Charita, Sonju Dukuri Labdua.
So again, we call it equality, because even the subtlest grasping at the duality and the twofoldness of the truths is missing. But if we think about this meaning equality of two things, and we have two things and they are now equal, then we're back to, intertwining threads. And this time we're intertwining a white thread and a black thread. And, it's like the worst kind of, of union. It's like the most obvious, like ill-fitting union. Yeah.
Very best union.
Very best union. Okay, so this is
So
this description of different types of union is coming from Mipam Rinpoche's commentary in the Madyamaka. He talks about the idea of union, different types of union. So.
Oh yeah. Next.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hello? Yeah. I heard this morning Rinpoche mentioned 3 ways to see or realize or getting introduced to the view, like sleep, death, and sexual union. But you also heard about all other kinds of way, like people in Guru Yoga or spontaneously or in meditation. Or so I'm wondering, is it different subtleties of the view we are talking about here, or are there in fact many ways? And Rinpoche just mentioned 3 ways.
During shogi Rinpoche ke tawa ngo trobe kap nekap sums kolas song de nyabyum kap sedang de ni kube kap sedang chipo kap se sum dang song ani yeneang chik goto kana te yang ta namtar damda logdo ta che kashige yang lame nenjor gombe kapsu ngotro badang kashige hopta loburto ngotro badang chik ta di mandawa mambo tongger te mambo yorde or nakasum chikbore.
Oh yeah, kandere. Te sondam te tam mandawares. Nyom chuk kaptang, niki kapstang. Parto ta chewa wazar ka kaps te ngon chori song yo mare oser te ranjing ka ngon de kyurkri la ko yore ngon choma cha ko mare ngon de kyurkri song yo te nang ga res so ranjing char yong gri la ko digas.
So actually it's we can put it a little bit differently, that the 3 circumstances that Rinpoche listed of sexual union and sleep and the bardo, these are 3 moments when the clear luminosity can become actualized. So it's not actually 3 moments where the introduction to the nature of a mind will be given, but rather it's 3 moments where the clear luminosity can spontaneously and naturally shine forth of its own.
Karisina di kaps pena ni lamar ni de yuri kaps yang tera rangre tok chok rakpa thatak ngagdi teni tonji namka ya tak pa ta wi nawase ni tik ak gosar ka nawa te hyar ki yorde diin tong ta ne nga so si ngoshi ma nga so ni ma tak pa hyar ki yorde ngoshi go mar te ngon chobi ton mari hyar wi ton res ina njok ta ni ngoshi mar.
Okay, so for instance, when we're going to sleep, there's a moment where all of the coarse conceptual thoughts fall away. And that is the moment when the clear luminosity arises. But this happens to all of us every single night, and yet we never recognize it. Not one, we never catch it because it happens so fast. And so it's that we haven't, yeah.
Damga katsi sana, tabji sana, te samte ngotro ya korkab yakshuri sonko yores. Otir. Damga tanta, lami damga kas yona. Yana tablam yapo, tab yapo yona. Ta karsu. Te nikap te samte ripa ngotro ya korkab yakshuri te sonko yore. Korkab.
So now, if you have received the Guru's instructions and you have methods that you can apply in these moments, then these 3 moments are, very potent moments for being able to recognize awareness. So if you are able to recognize that, that's what's called the child arriving in its mother's lap. So it's the clear luminosity of the child merging with the clear luminosity of the mother.
Oh, te mai bi tashi jambanda manda pe na ngamochi lama chi ke loma la ngoto chetante loma te control lang chi ni control chi ju de lang de di ni ngota ya res rikpa.
But there are also many other different techniques. So there's, one story about a lama in Tibet who managed to successfully introduce his disciple to the nature of mind when his disciple was flying into a rage.
Perna terendo ateti patamba sang ji loma re pajer kontere. Ne konkari chiresna nyama takba lama la hyaphipe avoji de lama kola dugcha chang nyama takba lavda yena khosem la nyama ta lama tenda sona ji jinjire sabni zogam ji ni tapatana jangres.
So that's, I think, the disciple of a disciple of Patampa Sangye, and this person was always serving his lama every day as like an attendant, and his lama was always saying just the meanest things to him, and he was always trying to be patient, cultivate patience as much as he could.
Nyama chigla kamba cholong ni koran likan tsara yongko de lama ga nang ni me yamba la kamar song ko yores. Koran te nyan de ko dukcha yimbe jimsan de yang samlu na la makura zimma chang lama ga song ko yores ta ko dukcha yamba zimma chang la ni me yamba la ko yores.
So one day when the attendant was coming home from some job, he walked in on the lama or heard through the window or something. The lama was talking to some other visitor, and he was talking all about how awful his attendant was, and he was just making things up too. It was just like so wrong.
Ani ko hang sang song ro ta dra da chali garare sa ni ba te tro shi ho chi la ni hop de nang ji ja re se ji ta lama ge ta di ga ji ma de pe sar bu shi yo sar ba xie dang yin na yang ko ngo de bi shen de sar bi rang yin jan ji da di ngo de da ju de se da ju di ko de o sar ri xi ngon tro sa se.
And he just, flew into a rage. He was so upset, and he just burst into the room. He was shaking and burst into the room. And then at that exact moment, the Lama just made a sign, and his anger was so strong, but it was so clear. That the clarity was such that, all the Lama just made a sign, and then it fell into clear luminosity.
다이나 나초 다다 소소라 먹기르기 따와식 첨부 톱탄 거 따와식 첨부 드라님 거 따와식 첨부여디 니 때서 히라베저 땅타고 말이스.
But unfortunately, we have things like individual rights and, human rights and equality, so we can't really make use of these tools.
당선 라마 롬마라 히고이 디츠레스.
But this is actually an age where the lamas should be afraid of the disciples.
Okay, next one. Oh, okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
So we'll have closing prayers first, and then I want to do a nice thank you for you. Yeah. Are we doing closing prayers right now?
Yes, page 17.
Page 17 in the yellow prayer book. Just as the hero Manjushri realized things as they are, so too did Samantabhadra. I will follow in their path by perfectly dedicating all these virtues.
Long life.
Long life prayers, page 20. For this realm encircled by snow-covered mountains, you are the source of all benefit and happiness without exception. Tenzin Gyatso, Lord Chenresig, may your life remain steadfast until the end of samsara. Embodiment of the three jewels, great being who upholds and increases the teachings of the Shakya lion. You perfectly guide others with your excellent deeds. May you, the precious guru who accomplishes everything, spontaneously live long. Holder of the teachings of Lord Drikung, great sovereign of the three jewels, through the power of your peerless compassion and the holy Dharma's peaceful light, you bring relief to beings. May your life be long. Known in the noble land as Arya Deva, you emanated in the Gar clan of eastern Tibet as Chudingpa, the heart son of Jigten Gompo. May the life of the glorious Garchen remain steadfast for 100 aeons. Page 26. May the teachings of the great Drikung Ratnashri, master of interdependence, omniscient Lord of Dharma, who has seen all knowable things, be upheld through the teachings and practice, through hearing, reflecting, and meditating, until the end of existence. Your 1,000 arms are the 1,000 wheel-turning kings. Your 1,000 eyes are the 1,000 Buddhas of this fortunate aeon. Your love is boundless like space. I supplicate to the Bodhisattva Chenresig. May I swiftly accomplish Chenresig through this virtue and bring, without exception, all sentient beings to that state.
I want to just do a short thank you to Khenpo Dza Tsering Tashi, as this is the end of the Black Snake Discourse teachings. So we thank you deeply for your wisdom and engaging and often humorous presentation of this very deep and philosophical subject. So thank you very much for that. But he will be back tonight at 6:30 for additional questions and answers. So thank you very much.
Oh.